Welcome to part 9 of VCV Reck in a nutshell, a series of videos where I introduce and explain certain modules fast and to the point. Today I'm going to talk about one of the Voxglitch modules, the Granular Wave Player Ghosts. Before I go and demonstrate the module's parameters, which we can tweak, it will come in handy to explain what these grain parameters really are and how they interact with each other. These little chunks of audio called grains have a certain length. Well, of course they do. We work with grain lengths of only a few milliseconds most of the times, and each grain can have a different pitch, meaning we can tune each grain differently from the pitch of the whole audio file, as well as differently from each other. Grains have a birth rate as well. Birth rate means how often new grains are generated, new small pieces of audio are cut off from the audio file. And a stream of grains has a density, which means how many grains can exist and sound at the same time. And the last parameter, we can determine which place, which part of the audio file the grains are going to be cut off from. And when we make the granular sound processor walk through the audio file while taking these little grains, we can listen to the whole audio file, but hear it in small chunks of possibly different lengths, different pitches, and coming along in different numbers. Voxglitch calls the grains ghosts, and well, we can indeed make some rather scary sounds with this module if we want. We find the parameters pitch at length here directly below the big knob on the front panel. The big knob, by the way, sets the position where the grains are taken from, the position in the sound file, and I can load any wave file into the module by right-clicking, and here I can load another file if I want. Okay, the parameter quota sets the density. Quota is density, and meaning the number of grains which can be heard at the same time, generated and heard at the same time. And the parameter spawn is the birth rate, and with turned completely to the left, the birth rate is highest, meaning the spawn parameter regulates the time between the generating of two consecutive grains. Now there's only a very, very short time, and now it's rather long. Okay, all of the mentioned parameters can be CV modulated, and the parameters length, quota, and spawn have even attenuators for the CV modulation inputs here. The pitch is the pitch of each grain here can be modulated as well, of course, and it's quantized to the 1 volt per octave characteristica. We have a perch parameter here, and perch means when I push it, we cannot hear it that nicely now. Let me put it like that. Perhaps you hear it. When we manually push this button here, we remove all existing grains from the buffer. So we silence all grains, and new grains are, of course, permanently generated. We can do this also by feeding in a trigger impulse. And the jitter parameter is a very important one here, because without jitter, each grain, and when we have a grain stream with a density of more than one, so more than one grain at the same time, Then with the jitter, we put a little bit of randomness to the position where these grains are taken from, so that not all grains are taken from exactly the same place here. The trim parameter is simply the output volume. Time for some experiments. Well, when you think that there must be silence from time to time, because especially when the birth rate is low, so the length between the break between two consecutively generated grains is long, and the length of each grain is short, well, then you are right, generally, but not here with this module. The algorithm, the range of values is not that way, so that we could generate silence between the grains. So there's always sound. I'll explain this in one of my books. I think the link is you find the link in the description. But here, for now, it's the only thing what is important for you is there is always sound coming out of the module. All right, so I have loaded a reporter here from TV. I've recorded a reporter from TV and loaded this file here into the module. Let me go around here. And when we have a short length and quite huge amount of quota, high density, and long time between consecutively generated grains, then we have only formants. What we hear are the formants, the typical vowel-like formants of human speech. Now I reduce density, called quota here. And now the things get more speech-like, because we have less grains now, because of the reduced density, and so less, let's say, chaos, sonic chaos. Yeah, by the way, it's Czech language what the reporter speaks. Of course, we are in the Czech Republic. Now I increase the birth rate by reducing the time between consecutively generated grains. And now the speech gets less clear again. It's not speech-like at all. Because with low density here, low quota, and a high birth rate, the grains that are generated, the older ones, vanish more or less at once, because there is no room for more grains because of the low density. Now I increase density. The sound gets less grainy. But because of the mass of grains, it's still not at all recognizable what the original sound file is like. Now I increase the length. The whole time we have worked with really short grain length. Now I increase it. So each grain is longer. Each of these chunks is longer. We get more robot-like sounds. We reduce the density a bit and decrease the birth rate. And here we discover, it may be kind of human speech what we have loaded into the module, but still a mass of grains. So robot-like robot-like voices. I reduce density again, and things get clearer. It's even, you can hear single words when we go through the recording. And well, what I did manually going through the recording, I can do automated in an automated manner. I take the saw wave of the LFO, and now the module scans through the audio file. I can increase the speed without increasing the pitch, or decrease the speed. And when I want to change the pitch without changing the speed, I use the pitch knob here. All right, so the next chapter is about some modulations. All right, a fun patch at the end of this video. There's a lot of modulations going on, and we have two ghost modules here in this patch. Let's talk about the left one at first. Here, the sound file, the loaded sound file, is the reporter speech again. And this module is modulated by the sample and hold block here. The trigger comes from this LFO, which itself is modulated by another LFO, and the sample source is white noise. The output modulates the pitch of the second ghost module. The sound file of the second ghost module are random glitches and random blips and random sounds generated by my DAW. I've recorded it at first, of course. So, and the output goes also, of the sample and hold unit goes also to this attenuator, which modulates the pitch of the other ghost module, the reporter's speech. So the pitch of the reporter's speech is not modulated, not that much. The jumps are not that extreme, like with the sound glitches here. The inverted output of the trigger of the sample and hold, not of the trigger, of the sample and hold module goes to the modulation of this big wheel, means to the modulation where the grains are taken from. The LFO down here, which itself is modulated by the trigger LFO here above. This LFO down here, the sine wave of it, modulates the birth rate, and the saw wave modulates the length of the grains. The output of this ghost module here goes to the reverb, to plateau, from where it then goes to mixer channel 1 and mixer channel 2 here in this case, and directly, without being going through the reverb, goes to mixer channel 3. So we have a clean signal at mixer channel 3 and the wet signal at mixer channel 2. Let's go to the next one, to this ghost module. As I told you, there is a modulation going on from the sample and hold concerning the pitch, and this is not attenuated. It goes directly to the module, to the ghosts module, and the length of the grains are modulated by another LFO, which the sine wave of another LFO, and the saw wave of this LFO determines where the grains are taken from. So here the loaded sound file is went through consecutively, completely always from the beginning to the end, whereas here the reporter's speech, here in the reporter's speech, the grains, the place where the grains are taken from, jumps all over the place randomly according to the sample and hold unit here. Yes, and the output of the right Voxglitch Ghosts module goes to the plateau, through the reverb again, as well as directly as the dry signal to mixer channel 4. By the way, these two outputs here are completely identical. All right, now we can play around with this patch, have some fun, but that's on you. Enjoy your day. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Rolf.